How many times have you felt like your life is stuck on repeat? No matter how much effort you put in, the same things keep happening. The same types of pain, the same kinds of situations, as if there's some invisible pattern pulling you back into old stories. Maybe you started a new relationship full of hope, only to find yourself haunted once again by that deep fear of being abandoned, just like before. Or perhaps you keep sabotaging yourself at work because there's a quiet voice deep inside whispering that you're not good enough. The same voice that echoed in school when people told you you'd never make it. Or maybe there's simply a heaviness in your chest, a sadness that comes out of nowhere. But if you really pay attention, it carries the familiar scent of things long past. Carl Jung, one of the great minds of psychology, came to a realization that changed everything. Most of the time, we're not actually responding to what's happening right now, we're reacting to the past. To old wounds, unfinished stories, to trauma we never fully understood. It's like we're wearing glasses, but the lenses are smudged by everything we've been through. That's why a small comment can feel like a harsh attack. Or why a simple delay from someone triggers a wave of anxiety. Or why trying something new feels so terrifying. It's not fear of the future. It's fear of reliving the past. Without realizing it, we project those old emotions and expectations onto our present reality. We're not seeing clearly, we're seeing through layers of memory and pain. Jung called this process projection. He explained that what we refuse to face within ourselves, we end up seeing outside of us, in other people, in events, in the world around us. And this is how the past quietly takes control of the future. If we can't tell the difference between what's really happening and what's just being remembered, we keep responding to life as though our old fears are still right here with us. To protect ourselves from those old wounds, we build masks, what Jung called the persona. These are the versions of ourselves we present to the world, carefully crafted to hide the parts we think are weak, shameful, or too painful to reveal. But the more we rely on these masks, the more we lose touch with who we truly are. And the more stuck we feel, unable to live fully, love openly, or build something new. There is a way to break free from these cycles. But it requires courage, the courage to look closely and recognize where the present ends and the past begins. Only then can we stop living under the weight of old stories and finally start writing one that's truly ours. This video is for you, if you're tired of feeling stuck. If you've been asking yourself why certain patterns won't go away. And especially if you're ready to understand how Jung believed we could find freedom from them. I won't offer you magic, but I will offer you a path. Why is it so hard to just let go of the past? It's a fair question, especially in a world that constantly tells us to move on, to forget, to get over it. But if it were that easy, we wouldn't keep finding ourselves in the same emotional loops, wounds reopening, memories resurfacing, the same inner battles playing out again and again. Jung discovered something that deeply shifted how we understand ourselves. We never truly see the world as it is. Our perception is never neutral. We look through filters, psychological lenses shaped by everything we've lived through, our experiences, our beliefs, our fears, our triumphs, and especially our pain. In his work Psychological Types, Jung explained how each of us develops a particular way of interacting with the world. Some people rely mostly on thinking and logic. Others navigate life through feelings and emotion. Some focus on what's concrete and real, while others are drawn to possibilities, to intuition and imagination. These core psychological functions, thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuiting, aren't just personality traits. They're filters. They determine what we notice, what we dismiss, what we value, and what we fear. And combined with our tendency to look outward, if we're more extroverted, or inward, if we're introverted, these functions shape the way we interpret everything around us. But here's the key, these lenses are deeply influenced by our past. Every painful or meaningful experience leaves a mark, a color that stains the lens through which we see. So when something happens now, your boss criticizes you, or your partner grows distant, it's rarely just about what's in front of you. Your nervous system, your emotions, your subconscious, everything reacts as if the old stories are happening all over again. The voice of criticism becomes the echo of someone who once made you feel worthless. The distance of your partner feels like abandonment from long ago. Jung saw this pattern in many of his patients, bright, capable people, stuck in loops they couldn't break. Living in the present, but reacting as though they were still trapped in yesterday. Because their perception was distorted, colored by unresolved wounds. As Jung once wrote, we see what we can most easily recognize in ourselves. That's why we're quick to notice the speck in someone else's eye. In other words, our outer vision reflects our inner world. If that inner world is full of fear, distrust, or unhealed pain, that's what we end up seeing everywhere. And when resentment lingers, even the present gets twisted. Tiny things become proof that nothing's really changed. But there's hope, because if our lenses can be distorted, they can also be cleaned. If they've been colored by pain, they can also be reshaped by awareness. And that's exactly where we'll go in the next part of this journey. If this video is resonating with you, click subscribe and support the channel. It really helps. Now that you understand you're not seeing reality as it is, but through filters shaped by your past, it's time to dive into one of the most powerful and challenging ideas Jung ever explored: projections. You might have heard this word before, but I want to invite you to look at it with fresh eyes. In Jungian psychology, projection isn't just a technical term. It's often the very mechanism through which the past keeps shaping your present, guiding your choices, stirring your emotions, and dictating your reactions without you even realizing it. Let's explore this together. Imagine someone who grew up with a highly critical father, harsh, dismissive, always pointing out their flaws, belittling their dreams, and using words that hurt more than any slap. That child grows up. They become an adult. And yet, even if their father is no longer in their life, or even if he's passed away, they still find themselves reacting to authority figures as if that critical voice never left. A boss giving feedback doesn't just trigger a response to the present situation, it awakens the emotional residue of years of criticism and shame. That's projection. We unconsciously assign our unresolved emotions we haven't yet owned, to the people around us. Jung said that what we cannot accept in ourselves, because it's too painful, shameful, or frightening, tends to be projected outward. We begin to see the world as a mirror of our inner wounds. He once wrote, "Projection turns the world into a replica of your own unknown face." This is why, sometimes, it feels like the same person keeps showing up in different forms in our lives. You meet someone new and before long, you're convinced they're just like your controlling ex, or that friend who betrayed you, or that relative who never really listened. But what if that similarity is more about what's still unresolved within you, rather than who the other person truly is? They may share some traits, yes, but you're the one projecting the weight of your past onto them. And there's no shame in that. It's deeply human. It's how our psyche tries to protect itself. The problem is that this defense mechanism keeps us from seeing others for who they actually are. Worse still, it keeps us locked in the past, trapped in an emotional loop where the present feels like nothing more than a repeat of what came before. And projection doesn't always show up in negative ways. How many people fall in love thinking they've found the one, only to be projecting their ideal of perfect love onto their partner, imagining a soulmate, a prince, or a flawless goddess? But as the relationship unfolds, reality sets in. The illusion shatters, and disappointment hits hard. Jung often warned about this, especially when discussing the anima and animus, the unconscious images of the feminine and masculine that live within each of us. One of the most difficult yet freeing realizations is this: projection isn't something that simply happens to us. It's something we do, without even knowing. It's automatic. And unless we begin to see it clearly, we'll keep reacting to the present as if it's the past all over again. But there's another layer, just as subtle and just as powerful, that binds us to our old stories, the masks we wear to protect ourselves from pain. Understanding these masks is the next step on our journey. Jung defined the persona as the social mask we put on to present ourselves to the world. It's the version of ourselves we show at work, in public, in relationships, on social media, at family dinners. It might be the capable professional who seems totally in control while silently struggling inside, or the funny, outgoing friend who makes everyone laugh, but feels empty and invisible the moment they're alone. Jung said something powerful. The persona is a kind of mask, designed on one hand to make a definite impression on others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. In other words, the persona serves a dual purpose. It helps us function in society, to be accepted, understood, to play roles like daughter, son, friend, boss, partner. Without a persona, we'd be exposed, vulnerable, raw, unprotected. We wouldn't know how to set boundaries or fit into the world around us. But there's a hidden danger when we start believing we are the mask. When we lose touch with who we really are beneath it, we begin to drift away from ourselves. We stop living authentically. Life becomes a performance. We turn into characters in our own story, trapped in a role we either chose long ago or had imposed on us. Think of someone who learned early on that love only came when they were strong and self-reliant. They build a persona of independence. They solve everything on their own. They never ask for help. They don't seem to need anyone. But inside, there's a deep fear of abandonment, a terror of being seen as weak. And so, they remain isolated, avoiding vulnerability, believing that if they ever let their guard down, they'll be destroyed. Or picture someone who grew up being told they were too much, too emotional, too difficult. They build a pleasing persona. They become the one who never says no, who hides their tears, who avoids conflict at all costs. But behind that mask is unspoken anger, swallowed sadness, a voice that wants to scream. That persona kept them safe as a child. But as an adult, it turns into a prison. A quiet prison, with invisible bars made of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of what might happen if the world sees their true face. Now, here's the key. The persona isn't something we can just throw away. Jung never said we should live without it. That would be dangerous and impossible. The goal isn't to destroy the persona, but to recognize that it's only part of who we are, not the whole. We need to become aware of when we're acting through the mask, and when we're speaking and living from our deeper, truer self. Because if we live only through the persona, we become predictable. Our reactions are robotic. We keep reliving the same patterns, over and over again. There's no real freedom. As Jung put it, we're living out scripts written by our past. And as long as we stay fused with the mask, we're stuck in the roles that once kept us safe, but now hold us back. The good news? There is a path forward. But it requires that we begin to notice our projections and question the masks we wear. Because, as Jung believed, only when we face these unconscious mechanisms can we begin to live with authenticity and create a future that isn't just a repetition of our past. To Jung, freedom doesn't come from trying to forget the past. It comes from the courage to see when we're reacting to the present as if it were still yesterday. And it's that kind of freedom we'll explore in the next part. Jung believed true liberation doesn't come from simply moving on, ignoring the pain, or repeating positive affirmations. On the contrary, he taught that the only way to free ourselves from the past is to look at it directly. But not just any kind of looking. It's not enough to recall painful memories or talk about them over and over again. What's required is something much deeper. So remember this, you're not just reacting to the present. Much of what you feel, fear, or avoid today might be echoes from a time long gone. But that doesn't mean you're trapped. It simply means it's time to look closer, to separate what's truly happening now from the stories your past keeps trying to replay. As Jung reminded us, we don't see the world as it is. We see it through the lens of who we are, and more importantly, through who we were. But those lenses can be cleaned. The patterns can be broken. And a new chapter can begin, not one written by your wounds, but one authored by your awareness. The past may have shaped you, but it doesn't have to decide your future. That choice is yours.